So we use galvanic skin response, which tells us about the intensity of people's reaction, kind of like on a millisecond to millisecond level. So we can literally look at every argument that's being made, and we can see whether it's landing, whether it has an impact. We can really measure that very precisely.
This is fascinating, right? Look at that group right there. Those are a group of local undecided voters wearing sensors during the debate last night as part of a unique testing to show how their bodies were reacting to the candidates as they were speaking. Some really impressive new technology, and here to tell us all about it is Ipsos market researcher Elizabeth Jaros. Elizabeth, thank you for being on the program. We're so curious.
Thank you for having me.
First, before we talk about the results or what you know so far, what kind of sensors were these individuals hooked up with and what were they doing?
Okay, this is really exciting. Ipsos partnered with a media lab called Media Science here in Chicago, and there's something called a neuro cube that they have. So there's three parts to it. There's a camera that tells about their facial expression, so we can kind of code, what emotion they're having, and then there's a heart rate monitor, so we know when their heart rate goes up when they're watching something, and then we also can measure their skin response. So it's kind of like if you're standing on the edge of a cliff or you're on a roller coaster and you get those sweaty palms, kind of like that when you're watching the debate. So they can't lie to me when I take them into the focus group after the fact, because I already know what their bodies were doing.
You mentioned during the break that you're still going through the exact results and the exact moments of these debates where everything was elevated, but you mentioned a couple that stood out to you. What were those moments during the debate last night?
Well, one that really surprised me was before the debate, Kamala initiated a handshake, and everyone thought that was a really strong moment for her, and we saw some of that come through as I was talking to the respondents after the fact. Also, when Trump was talking about, eating animals, things like that, those are the kind of moments that really get responses.
Got it. Now, in terms of overall, you said there was a difference among these undecided voters between when Kamala Harris was speaking versus Donald Trump. Will you run us through that?
Absolutely. So this was super fascinating. When you look at the data, we had them rate how much they were liking things, and when Kamala Harris was talking, if you have like a zero line, when Kamala Harris is talking, most of the undecided voters are above zero, meaning they like what they're hearing. And when you look at when Trump is talking, most of the undecided voters are below zero.
Got it. So most of the commentary this morning is indicating that Kamala Harris had a strong night last night. Yeah. Is that consistent with what you were finding from these 8 undecided individuals?
Very consistent. I did a focus group after the fact, and I asked all of them, who do you think won the debate? Every hand went up for Kamala Harris.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of this testing being able to provide significant data as we move through these election cycles, what is it exactly designed to do, not just for this election cycle, but going forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we did a combination of things. So we talked a little bit about the NeuroCube and what we did here in Chicago, but we also looked at swing state voters across the U.S. So there were over 400 people doing this dial testing.
Oh, wow.
So we know what undecided voters and then Republicans and Democrats all across swing states thought about the debate last night. The combination of all the methodologies with Media Science and Ipsos makes it so we not only know the data, the polling, we also know what's underneath the data, so the subconscious, and then I go deep in the focus groups to really help understand what it all means. And so it's a combination of things that really gives a 360 view.
Yeah, and I can't wait to hear more from the other sample groups that you just mentioned. We'll be following up for sure. Elizabeth Jaros with Ipsos, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it.